Hi, D. Ramirez here. Welcome to my studio. In this video, I want to talk about sidechaining. Sidechaining is not only a technique for ducking the kick and the bass out of the way, there are many different applications for using sidechaining. And in this video, I want to explore some of those said applications along with the tools that I like to use. Let's get into it. First up, let's just take a listen to this groove. This groove is made with my sample pack that's available on the Toolroom Academy through Splice. Take a listen. Here's the vocal. Okay, there's the groove. All right, so let's look at the first sidechaining plugin that I actually like to use, and we're going to demonstrate it with this bass loop here. Kickstart 2 by Nicky Romero, made by a company called Cable Guys. One of my favorite plugins because it's really immediate to use. Let me just open this up and turn it on. You can see here it's automatic. You can see that it doesn't actually require a sidechain input for it to work. However, you can set it to do that using the audio tab there if you want to. It's got different sidechain shapes, and my favorite thing about it is you can pull that back. If you've got a longer decay on your kick, you can just pull that back over there to create that classic sidechaining pump, or you can have it very quick. Very immediate, almost like a preset sidechain, which makes it very quick to use if you're just sort of wanting to grab something quick. Great. It's also got this band here now. In the version 2, brought this band in, so which means you can take out the high frequencies, you can set the crossover, and you can just duck the low frequencies, leaving the high frequencies on their own. Very useful. Next up, we've got what's become my new favorite sidechain by a company that I absolutely love. All of their plugins are awesome. I suggest you go check them out. It's called Devious Machines Duck. Now, Duck, again, similar sort of thing, but it's a bit more flexible. You can actually draw your own shapes here. It's also got some preset shapes. It's also got the same crossover frequency, so you can either choose to duck out just the low frequencies or take the high frequencies out of there, so which is actually very useful. I'm going to leave that on. So the classic sidechain sort of technique is to do this. But my favorite new sidechain shape is this one, where we go like that. It becomes a very transparent shape. Obviously, it depends on the sort of length of the kick, and if you've got a very long decay on your kick, you're going to need a little bit more sidechain there. But I find that one quite transparent. Great plugin, okay? And then next up, we've got a technique which I like to use to duck away frequencies. Now, so we've got our volume ducking going on with our plugin called Duck. What I'm going to do is open this drum loop here. This is just a full loop. Okay, so what I want to do is use Pro Q3 by FabFilter. Without doubt, one of the best EQ plugins on the market. You must have heard of FabFilter Pro Q3. But what's amazing about it is that you can use it. If you set the sidechain in Pro Q3 there, look, set it to the drum loop, you can then overlay that drum loop here. And what you get, you can see this red area. The red area is where the two are masking, where the bass of the drum loop kick is getting in the way of the bass. And what we can simply do here is set a point. We can make it dynamic. We can make it a bit thinner as well. We don't want to remove too much. And that dynamic then can be set to automatically sidechain to that frequency when it hits. Okay. That's every time the drum loop hits, and then I can set the threshold there. Every time the drum loop plays, it will duck that frequency at that place where the two are clashing with each other. Great, I love that technique. And then using the similar technique, we can look at the acid loop and this blip loop playing together. If we play this together, you can see that the two are clashing. They're both in a similar space. What would you do if you wanted to have those two loops playing together, but you wanted to get rid of the clash? Well, you can then use, of course, Pro Q3 in the similar way. You can see there I've set my sidechain to the blip loop. Okay, open up that blip loop there, and then we can overlay the blip loop here with this, and we can see the blip loop coming through. You can see most of the masking is happening around this sort of mid-range low frequency area there. So what I've done is set a dynamic EQ only to happen when the blip loop plays, and it will duck those frequencies. If I stop the blip loop, you'll see that won't actually work. Which is an amazing technique, because sometimes you want that to be the star of the show, sometimes you want this to be the star of the show. It's a great way of getting each other out of each other's way. And then next up, one of my favorite plugins here is one of my favorite companies, actually, Waves Factory. Now, look, if we are wanting to play this acid loop and this vocal hook together, we've got a similar situation where the two are clashing with each other. So how do we get the two out of each other's way? Okay, we still want them to play together, but we want the vocal loop to be the star of the show. We want the synth loop to be sort of behind that a little bit, but only when the vocal plays. Okay, this plugin is amazing for that. It's called Trackspacer. It's by Waves Factory. Now, in a similar way, it works in a dynamic way. So I've set the sidechain to be the vocal hook. So every time the vocal hook plays now, it will duck at those frequencies. Watch how this works. So you can hear that the frequencies that are clashing with the vocal when the vocal plays are being ducked away, leaving a little space. Let's play it without it and you can hear the difference. With okay, so those are a few of the techniques I like to use for sidechaining, along with some of the plugins. If you've got some favorite plugins or some interesting techniques, I would love to hear about them. So please share in the comments below.